Well, hello everyone and welcome to another round of the NGK and NTK Esports Cup. This is going to be coming at you from Rudskogen this time around here in Norway. Welcome one and all. My name is Connery Maddock and I'll be joined by the wonderful Patricia Stalidzane as always in this particular commentary booth. Patricia, we are back here for another week of racing. These drivers quickly running out of opportunities to get themselves qualified into that grand final.
Absolutely true. We're past mid-season already, but still a couple nice tracks to come. And also today, Rudskogen, very, very interesting and new track for most of us. So yeah, I think not so many chances left, but still a couple.
Yeah, exactly. For those towards the top of the order, maybe they're feeling a little bit more comfortable now here at the moment. You know, not necessarily having to worry about dropping outside of the bubble. But for those that really want to get their slots, well, there's only 2 events left to go before you get yourself towards that final stage. Let's have a look at the calendar then. It all started at the end of last year, actually, at Zolder before we headed to Motorland, Aragon, and then we went to Imola. We had a lovely event at Hockenheim last time out, and now we are here at Rudskogen for race, or rather event, number 5 of the championship. We'll get another opportunity for the drivers to gain themselves a bit of points at Oulton Park before we get ourselves towards that finale at the Nürburgring. This is how things are looking here today. We've already got the stream underway, and eventually we'll get ourselves into the qualification stage. Of course, then we'll be heading in towards our race number 1, and then, of course, race number 2 with the reverse grid as well is always going to be very, very interesting indeed. We'll be finishing about 20 past 8 Central European time. Yeah, these events have been absolutely fantastic so far. We've seen a fantastic amount of racing, and that racing has turned into standings that look like this currently. It is Alexander Tiber at the very top of the order here at the moment with a good run, but he's being very closely followed here by Vince Peters. Patricia, making things a little bit spicy, a little bit tense at the very top of the order.
Not only at the very top of the order, as you already mentioned, the top of the order is safe to make it to Nürburgring. However, the back of the field is still fighting for their positions. So I think that's the most important and probably coolest event of the season, the big finale that we're all looking forward to. At the back, we're still looking for all the wild cards that keep coming in and try to collect some points to make it into the big and final race.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic to see, and of course we don't, at least for the first event, we didn't only have this split, we have many splits, and in fact we have many splits right now going on in this situation. We have up to 4 splits, so there's going to be not just drivers in this race, but drivers in some other races that are also earning points to be able to get themselves, well, their position in the standings. There might be a situation where we might see someone in the final who has qualified themselves through split 2, for example. So that one potentially might be one to have a look at here. But of course, we are at potentially a pretty new circuit for a lot of these drivers as well in the form of Rudskogen. I don't have all that much experience here, and I doubt many of the drivers will have too much experience at this circuit either. So that's going to be an interesting one for the drivers to have to deal with. Basically, learning the ropes of a new track again, at least in their process, in their practice leading up to today.
Yeah, well, I had the same experience when I did the lap introduction, which we're going to see a little bit later. It was new for me, but I still enjoyed it very much. I think you do need a couple of laps to get into it, to get into the groove. But it's a very fast and interesting track, so I think you'll get to like it quickly and enjoy racing in it, even though you don't have that much experience on it. I hope all of the drivers are going to have the same, same sensation as I did when I drove it for the first time.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that track guide, because this is going to be something that I'm going to need, as well as probably many people at home, as to how to negotiate this circuit. So we could potentially have a little bit of a look at how we get ourselves around this Rudskogen circuit.
Hi Hi guys, my name is Patricia Salizane and I'm a professional race car driver and also your co-commentator for this year's NGK NTK ESPORTS CUP. We are right now somewhere in Norway on a racetrack that I can't pronounce, probably Rudskogen or something like that. But let me try and show you the track on how it looks and how it's driven rather than how it's pronounced. So, here we go once again, starting the lap on the last corner off the track to prepare for the straight. Here on the straight we'll come up to 4th gear, and shortly after the 100-meter sign at the beginning of the curve we'll brake, go into 3rd gear, cut the first left-hander by a lot, and then go into the very long right-hander where you will be enticed to go on throttle way sooner than it looks. So kind of go on 20-30% and build up the throttle as you come out of the corner. Use the whole track for sure. Then 4th gear here, we brake a little bit, but don't shift down, carry the speed. And then here we brake into 3rd gear before this next corner, but again try to carry the speed into the corner because we're going uphill. From here we are pretty much flat out, going left-right through this fast chicane. Going to 2nd gear. It's a double left-hander for one short one and one very long left-hander. Same here again, don't go on throttle too soon, but once you see the exit of the corner, go full push. Here on the right side we have a 50-meter board where we brake very hard and go into 1st gear because this is a returning corner and we are going uphill afterwards. Here we'll try to brake, not shift down, keep the speed, and use the whole exit off the track because here we are carrying the speed into the corner. This is the last corner already of the track. We need to carry the speed and kind of flow through the corner because you cannot over push the exit. Once you see the exit again, full throttle, and here we are back on the straight. Very, very quick lap. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I did for sure. I really like this track and I hope the other racing drivers will enjoy it in their race as well.
Well, that was a little bit of a look around the Rudskogen. I mean, that's a very, very careful with my pronunciation there. It's probably wrong already, but that was a little bit of a demonstration of the venue that we'll be racing at here today. And of course, Patricia, you know, with that expert view, you having, of course, driven in the real world as well. You know, it's always fascinating seeing those skills be able to transfer over from the real world into the sim, but of course, it happens the other way around as well, doesn't it? From the sim into the real world with some of the drivers that we've seen.
Absolutely. There's some skills that you can definitely transfer. Then again, some other skills that you have to learn or relearn in each of the atmospheres, obviously. I think as a real racing driver, it's weird in the first moment to drive on a simulator and everything has to be perfectly precise. There's no external like influences compared to real life racing. However, it's the same from simulator coming to real life racing. All of a sudden there's consequences. All of a sudden there's, you know, other factors counting in. However, I did do the test between the car that we're racing, the Toyota GR86 or 68. My English not so good at the moment, as I feel like. Anyway, I drove the car on track and also on the simulator, and we saw some very interesting similarities actually. So you do have a lot of benefits from simulators that you can implement into the real life.
Yeah, you just can't reset your car in real life, unfortunately. So if you have a big accident, you know, you do have to worry about that.
Well, it depends on your budget, you know. Depends on your budget.
I guess if you have infinite budget, then it doesn't matter as much. But yeah, for those teams that are, you know, really struggling to even get a car onto the grid, it'd be a big thing to have a big accident. But anyway, we're gonna have a little bit more on that because we've got a video prepared for you about the differences between the sim racing side of things and the real world side of things. So let's have a little look at that.
The Toyota GR86 was the car for me today. It's super responsive, so it was interesting for me because I didn't expect that from a street car. It's also very lightweight, so you had to manage the rear-wheel drive and the breakouts of the car. So it was quite similar to a sports car actually. I think the real basics, the theory of racing, such as like the braking points, so the ideal line, learning the track and the simple physics of cars are quite similar. And also I prepared today for the track day on the simulator. So for someone who doesn't have any other resources, I think it's the perfect way to get started with racing. I think that the main characteristics of the car are actually quite similar from the simulation to the real car. It's both very agile and responsive, and the driving style I think is comparable. However, you do have the sequential gearbox in the simulation, which you don't have in real life. We had the manual gearbox. And also you have slick tires, which we didn't have, and yeah, a bit more body kit in the simulation, which makes you have a bit more downforce. However, I think both cars are fun and the drivers will enjoy it. I think NGK NTK made the absolute correct decision making it a Toyota Cup, because a Cup is always promising very good racing because it highlights the performance of each driver and, you know, makes stuff like BOPs irrelevant. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it, and I think we'll see some intense and tight motorsports.
Well, that was a little bit of a look at the differences between the sim and reality, especially in particular with regards to this Toyota GR86 machine as well, which the drivers will be using throughout this season, not only to, you know, qualify in the final race, but they'll be using it at the Nürburgring for that final event as well. So speaking of course, it's the top 40 of all of our points, well, all of our drivers in the regular season will gain themselves an entry into that final event. And of course, you know, that's what all the drivers will hopefully be looking forward to at this point, especially for those that are more secure inside of that top 40. I mean, they could potentially, you know, finish quite poorly or not finish at all in these next two events and still get themselves a slot inside of that final event. So the pressure is off them a little bit here. Potentially it might give them an opportunity to have a little bit of fun instead, but we'll have to see. But you know, it's been the case in the previous races, Patricia, where we've had some pretty crazy finishes come out of nowhere.
Absolutely. As I said in the video, I think it absolutely proved itself to be right, that the racing is super tight because of the Cup. So the drivers, all of them are good, and obviously we do have these different clusters of drivers, and only the best ones drive in these races. So it always turned out to be intense racing, and they always save themselves up for the last lap to really fight for the positions. I don't think this race is going to be any different, but as you said, obviously the top 10 list is quite already settled, so I think those guys can just maybe have a good time. Where for a racing driver, a good time means still full push and go for the win. So I don't think it's going to make a big difference today.
Yeah, we'll have to see, but it's going to be very interesting to see how the racing goes on here. Of course, we've got those drivers that are outside of the top 40 trying to break in. Some drivers that are going to be new inside of the top split here today. That's also going to be an interesting point of contention. Some of these drivers may not have competed at this higher level before, so it's going to be very intriguing to see how they do, in particular when you're going up against some pretty big names, in the series. So we've got the very end of the practice session going on at the moment. It's going to be ending in probably in about actually 10 seconds before we get ourselves into qualifying. It will be a 10-minute qualifying session, lone qualifying, so the drivers will not be able to interact or affect each other out on circuit for that qualifying session, and they will have 4 timed laps as well to be able to get themselves their spot on the grid for race number 1. So qualifying, of course, has previously been pretty important in this series. We haven't gone to too many tracks where overtaking is particularly easy. So I imagine drivers, and actually we did talk to a lot of drivers at the end of last week, where they mentioned that the qualifying is probably the most important session out of all the ones we do today.
Not only most important, I think it's also really tough. We talked about this quite briefly in one of the first races, and ever since it's just been, of course there's a low qualifying, but I still think it's very, very different for a lot of drivers, because you really don't have anyone to copy or, use as a carrot, as they say. So it's really just up to you, and especially because it's so important and there's only a couple laps and the time frame is quite small. I think it's a high pressure situation for all of the drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've commentated on a series before where they only have one timed lap. They have it one and done sort of thing. So that would be at least it's not that. That's all I'm saying with regards to this one at the moment. Yeah. It's always crazy putting all that pressure onto that single lap, and we get many instances of drivers not being able to complete it. Having the lap invalid or something like that, and they have to start at the very back of the grid. But thankfully that's not the situation that these drivers have to deal with at the moment. Here's Vince Peters, of course, getting himself all prepared for his qualifying lap. He's taking this as a bit of an out lap and trying to get those tires into the correct operating window in terms of the temperatures and pressures, of course. Having a look at the track conditions here today, it is clear skies, 18 degrees in the air, 33 degrees Celsius in terms of the track temperature as well. We are about 1:30 in the afternoon in sim times. It's going to be the hottest part of the day here at the moment, so not expecting that track temp to really climb much higher, if at all, here. So the conditions going to be pretty static for these guys, and I'm pretty okay. 33 degrees track temperatures is not a big deal.
Yeah, it's okay. Maybe a bit hot for a day in Norway, but it's okay.
I guess so.
Still warm and still a lot of tire wear, but I think it's more manageable than the last race we had, so guys will know how to handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're running on board with that number 24 of Vince Peters here at the moment as he works his way out of turn 2 onto what is effectively the back straight as we descend down the hill in towards turn number 3. This is such a fun corner, it looks like, as you have that gradient change on entry, and then you start climbing back up the hill in through turn 4. It must be a bit of a roller coaster in the real world.
Absolutely, I would love to race that track in real life. I think the first corner is a ballsy corner, and then also the climb up. It's giving Nordschleife a little bit because of the pressure. I think at the bottom, depends on what car you're driving, but the track looks absolutely perfect in my opinion.
Yeah, it absolutely does, and it looks very picturesque as well. I mean, you can take a picture anywhere in Norway, and it'll look good. But this track is no exception here, as Peters winds his way through. 1 minute 13 at the moment as he heads his way through to the sort of back end of the lap now. It's just swinging his way through that turn number 14 here, trying to get himself back out onto the pit straight. And, well, just gunning it to the line for his first timed lap. So let's see what the benchmark will be as we see a couple of drivers setting themselves some early times here. Vince Peters does go provisional pole position at the moment, but only with a handful of drivers having set times at this stage. There's Alexander Tiber heading his way through and across the line now. 1:53 is well off the base, so I imagine he took that as another out lap here before he gets himself onto his timed attempt here. And I wouldn't be surprised if he puts it at least roughly near that front row.
Yeah, let's see. The guys still have a couple more laps to go, but we obviously expect Vince Peters to be quite in front at least. He's always been quick over the last races, so I guess he will be as well today. Maybe we'll have some surprising guys in front. That would be cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, here's Michael Hafliderson. Has been with us since the very start of the season. It's been great seeing him get himself stuck into these events. As been involved in quite a lot of things, has to be said, over the last couple of races. No matter what situation he finds himself in on circuit, it feels like he's always in a battle, always either trying to defend or attack. And right now he is really attacking the circuit as he heads his way through that long, winding, it feels like never-ending right-hander at the very end of the lap before, again, charging towards that start-finish line. What's the lap time going to be for Haflidason? At least on his first time of asking, a 1:32.636. Actually good enough to go provisional pole position for the driver of the 81. That's a great lap.
Absolutely. There we have the surprises, but still 2 more laps to go. Let's see if anyone can beat those laps. I think if the guys go into the pits, they get new tires, or do they not?
Yeah, they can come into the pits and get fresh tires. That is absolutely allowed as per the rules, as Alexander Tiber goes where where we expect him to be, really. Pole position for the championship leader at the moment, the only driver in the 132.2s, although Patrick Thompson does get himself onto the front row of the starting grid there, but still almost 0.2 of a second behind Alexander Tiber. Here's Vince Peters again as he heads his way through towards turn 3 and 4. 1:32.650 is definitely going to be trying to work on trying to get himself further towards that front row of things, so he can have a chance at trying to get up in the face of Alexander Tiber, as he has done so on a few occasions so far this season. Time remaining left in the session, less than 4 minutes now, so these drivers need to get a move on if they want to complete their 4 allotted lap times.
I think this track is actually quite difficult to drive because of all the balance switches. As you see, it goes up and down, left, right all the time, long corners, quick corners. So I think also for the drivers, I think if you want to get to know a car like the Toyota Cup we have here, this is the perfect track to get to know a car, because you really have all the kinds of corners and all the kinds of ratios you could be in.
Daniel Muth goes up into second place here at this stage of qualifying. Vince Peters heading his way out the final corner now. So 1:32.650 was Vince Peters' fastest lap up until this point, and it looks like a 1:32.588 will mean he does improve position. He's up ahead of Michael Haflidason at the moment, but still P5 for the driver of the number 24 at the moment. Nicholas Zolder getting himself a lap time on the board as well, gets himself promoted up in towards that 7th place. Drivers now running out of laps to be able to work with here. Alexander Tiber's on his final lap. Daniel Muth is on his final lap. Same with Patrick Thompson at the moment. Here is Artur Gustems as well, who's also on the final lap. So this is going to be the last attempts here to Patricia for these drivers to get themselves their place in the starting grid.
Yes, absolutely. I think 1 more lap to go for all of them. Vince Peters not where he would want to be, I assume. Quite surprising. I did expect him to do a little bit better. Still not bad, of course. But Tiber not surprising. Daniel Muth, I think we've seen him in the front a couple of times. I'm not sure. I think he missed the last race or the previous one. He did not compete in all of the races, did he?
And they're not required to. They're not required to in this particular
exactly.
event. So,
yeah.
I mean, if he feels confident that he get inside the top 40 without having done all the races, that's his decision. But here's Artur Gustems then with his last attempt here in qualifying. A 1:32.934. It's actually worse than his personal best, so he's not going to make any improvements there in the 11. It's always tough towards the end of the session to extract the maximum performance out of the car, especially if you've had already 1 flying lap on those sets of tires. So let's have a look then. Alexander Tiber, pole position with a 1:32.293 at the moment, and well, it looks like he's gone even faster. 1:32.250 extends his gap as far as the lap times are concerned for pole position. Vince Peters, he's coming, he's still in the early stages of his particular lap here at the moment. Still with a minute remaining, should be able to get himself to the line and make this lap count, but it'll be close.
I think this is the biggest pole position gap we've had this season so far, so congratulations to Tiber, quite impressive. But yeah, still, the race is different, and with the reverse grids, everything can change quickly, but still, very, very good job.
Yeah, incredible job so far. I mean, yeah, we've had so many incredibly close starting grids over the course of this season so far, and It kind of still is the case. We've got the top 13 all separated by just a single second, so things are still pretty tight in this one, despite the gap for the lead being bigger than we thought. A little bit of oversteer coming off the corner there for Peters. He's able to gather it up, though. He's just got to be careful that he didn't get himself an instant point for an off track there, which will invalidate his lap if he did. But it looks like he's continuing on at full pace, but the time expires now. Does he get to the line? Oh, I don't think he did. I don't think he did. That is unfortunate. Not sure if he was on for a good lap time regardless, but yeah, you never want to see that happen. The session ending just before you get yourself to the line. But with that said and done, here's the starting grid then for race number 1 here at Rudskogen in the NGK and NTK Esports Cup. It's Alexander Thieber. It's our championship leader taking pole position here. And then you've got Daniel Muth there in second place. Patrick Thompson will line up in the 3rd spot with Lewis Bielaka in P4. Vince Peters P5 with Michael Hafliderson in P6. Wanshi Lin in P7 with Nicholas Nolder in P8. John Ellen will start in 9th with Artur Gustems in P10. Nazadati will line up in the 11th spot with Franco Sanchez-Buckley starting in 12th. Sam Chapman will start in 13th with Harry Fox in 14th. Tim Bielaka in P15 with Sarah Dove starting in P16. Sophie Aronwan in P17 with Simon Suzuko lining up in 18th. Gary Lynn will start in 19th with Noor Hendricks in P20. Micah Ploeg there in P21 with Artem Markov in P22. Tanguy Takot there in P23 with Dario Dills in P24. And that will end up rounding off our 24-car starting grid. Everyone was able to get themselves a qualifying lap in. It looks like, however, with where they are lining up at the moment and where the pace car is, this will be a full pace lap here, Patricia. So we still got a little bit of time to have a little bit of a chat before this one.
A little bit of a chat, but usually they jump straight into formation lap, so there's not much time for the drivers. Maybe sip a bit of water and here away we go. So again, quite packed race for the guys.
Yeah, not all tracks on iRacing will have a short pace lap option, which is why they are instead doing a full pace lap. So they'll have a little bit of a chance to get their sights set, I suppose. Maybe put a little bit of energy into those tires before getting themselves off and away and charging down towards turn number 1. But it's been a great qualifying for those at the front. We've got Alexander Thieber on pole position once again, and he did it by also extending his gap at the very end of the session as well. He didn't need to, but he did, and he just I imagine he just wanted to be 100% sure that no one else was on a flying lap, on a good lap at the end of that session that would be able to beat him to it.
That's what we talked about before, like he was already leading on the championship. However, that will not mean he'll give any less this time. So yeah, as we talked, I think still he will push for the win today, but the pack behind him, as you already mentioned, is quite tight as well. So I think as long as they don't get into big troubles behind him, he's gonna have some people following him up as well during the race.
Absolutely, as these drivers wind their way through here on this pace lap and get themselves ready for what is looking to be some exciting 25 minutes of racing. Of course, it's not the only race that we'll be having here today, and once we're done with this race, we're going to be basically straight into the gridding procedure of race number 2, where it's another 25-minute race, but we have a full reverse grid, which is always very spicy and very interesting. Let me just tell you that. It has been throughout this season. So for Alexander Thieber, for Daniel Muth, for Patrick Thompson, this might be the more relaxed race of the two here today, because if they finish in those positions at the very end, well, they'll have to be starting towards the very back of things, which is always incredibly intriguing. But yeah, Patricia, have you got any expectations for this race? What do you think is going to happen at the front with Alexander Thieber, Muth, Thompson, and everyone else?
think at the front it's going to be quite calm. I think we've seen that the guys really are quite strategic, and they know how to, like, where to push and where to, you know, step back a bit in order not to cause any accidents or incidents. I think in the front we'll have a clean race, but as always, I think in the midfield we'll see some very, very, intense fighting for positions. Obviously, the guys are usually similarly quick, and also they're fighting for their points. So yeah, I expect a lot of fighting in field.
Here we go then. The race here, race number 1 at Rudskogen in the NGK and NTK Esports Cup is underway. It's Alexander Thieber that lead in towards the first turn and swinging into towards turn 2 now. Most of the front get single file. However, Vince Peters has been left out to dry here a little bit around the outside of Michael Flidderson, who is able to get himself through. Nicholas Nolder on the outside looking into this one as well as they get themselves single file on the run down in towards turn number 3. Down the hill they go. Patrick Thompson to the inside of Nolder here at this corner, as it looks like Nolder's going to wash out a little bit wide. Thompson allows himself to get to the inside at turn number 4, and Thompson works his way through on Nicholas Nolder. So there's a couple of changes here at the front of the field already, and further back it looks like everything is a-okay. I don't think we had any major incidents back through the field, although I am seeing damage on Dario Dill's car.
Yeah, clean train, but however, due to the long corners that keep coming back and forth, they don't have many possibilities to jump in, you know, spontaneously. So I think if you want to make a move, you have to prepare for it. Obviously, so in the first lap, I think they're just collecting themselves right now.
Yeah, absolutely, and well, it's definitely one of the less chaotic starts that we've had in an NGK NTK Esports Cup Series race. Let me tell you that. But nose to tail stuff between Vince Peters, Patrick Thompson, and Nicholas Nolder. Though those guys are determined to have a little bit of a scrap here as we head towards the end of lap number 1. A couple of drivers poking their noses out to try and size up the opposition as we hit the brakes in towards turn number 1 here, and you can see Nolder is really carrying a lot of speed through there, but he's found a bit of a roadblock that is that number 29 of Patrick Thompson, the green car, in amongst this little grouping of cars as they head their way down the back straight now. You know, it's very difficult to try and, you know, get yourself to the inside here as we see Gustems. Oh, Arthur Gustems with the big slide coming through turn 3 and 4, and he's going to lose a lot of positions down the inside here. He's going to settle in as we have an instant. We have an instant towards the back of the field. Is that Harry Fox involved in it? I believe it is. He gets that car spun back around. So this was just behind where Gustems had his issues. I think Harry Fox might have had a bit of a solo car incident that became a little bit more with a couple of cars collected. We'll get the replay here in just a second, but we had a calm first lap, but it seems like the second lap things got a little bit more sketchy.
Yeah, but I think it's primarily because that corner is quite difficult and the guys will have to manage the tires. Yeah, there was a bit of a bump from the back. But I think he's also struggling with something, probably the damage to the car, as you mentioned. Yeah.
So this is Harry Fox. Oh, it was a single car incident and a slide that collected a couple of other drivers. That was Sam Chapman and Franco Buckley, I think it was, that got themselves all caught up in that one, which is not ideal. Of course, there was really nowhere they could go as Harry Fox was sliding the car across the circuit. Vince Peters down on towards pit lane here. Vince Peters is in, and well, it seems like it's a black flag. Yeah, he's black flagged. So that's a penalty. It's not a disqualification. It's the black and flag with the white cross here in iRacing. That's a disqualification. But yeah, a penalty of some form for Vince Peters.
I'd be curious to know where that came from. So much about he's gonna have a chill race today. Yeah,
so he was asking for the black flag to be cleared. It must have come off the start then, potentially. You know, was that passed on the potentially wrong side? I'm going to have a look back at Vince Peters' start to see exactly what might have happened here, because I'm just as confused as everyone else. Because iRacing, when it comes to double file starts here, it takes the NASCAR rules where you cannot pass on the left-hand side. And that's exactly what Vince Peters did before the start-finish line. That's why he got the black flag. You can't pass on the left.
Now we know. Well, that's bad for him. However, it makes it more interesting for us. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, but you see the guys keep coming into a slide here in these long corners. I mentioned it on another track before in the track guide. With this car, it's so hard to find the sweet spot on how quick or how much mid-corner speed you can take into the corners. And with the tire wear, it gets different every lap you drive it. So as we saw, the guys spinning in after the first corner, the fast one, it's because in the first lap you can take a lot of more speed into the corner than into the next and the next and the next. They have to adjust every lap, so that's quite the challenge, and I think you'll see a lot of guys struggling with that. I would too, obviously, so it's not as easy as you might think with the tire wear.
Yeah, absolutely, and well, that's just the situation that the drivers are having to deal with at the moment. Not only car issues, and instance out there on circuit, there was a bit of a move there. Daniel Muff dropping down the order. That was for P2, major position here in this race, and my attention was distracted a little bit there, so I didn't quite catch the start of that incident. But
Lewis Belica gave him a little bit of a push from the back, but then he came into a spin and he saved him again by another push into the front. So now he just lost 3 positions instead of being spun around. So yeah, so I think he did get a couple. He did get a warning for that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine so. The stewards will obviously have a look at all protests, all incidents after the event here, and we're seeing side-by-side action here once again as Patrick Thompson actually works his way through on Belica, and I think is Belica slowing down to give Muth the position back here. I think that would be the sensible thing to do to try to avoid a penalty, but it kind of has resulted in the gain of position for Haflidsson for Thompson as well.
He lost 2 positions, but he didn't give it back to Daniel Muth, so maybe either misunderstanding or not a nice gesture, just lost a couple positions back.
Yeah, absolutely. So this spell for P2 becomes a lot more interesting at this stage. I've gone and had a look back at the incident myself, and yeah, I would say it was Belica's. It was going for a gap that never existed. We'll have a look at here. You can see heading his way through. You can see Muth a little bit wide, but that isn't an invitation to go down the inside at the second apex there. That door was always closing and was pretty much closed even when Belica got there. Oh, and he sent it on someone else. He sent it on someone else again. Another gap that was not available for Belica, and Haflidsson's now the victim. Oh boy. You don't like to see things like that. Of course, Haflidsson was dealing. He might have been dealing with a slowdown penalty. I'm not entirely sure, but he was in a battle either way with Patrick Thompson. And again, it's a closing door that catches Luis Belica out. I think you muted, Patricia. Yeah, she is muted. So once she gets a microphone unmuted, there we go.
I'm back. Sorry. Oh yeah, well, I think he's on a run today. He had some bad sleep last night.
Yeah, not a lack of...
Maybe that's what happened before. Maybe Belica got a slow down as well, and that's why he lost this.
Yeah, but we'll have to see, because I mean, Haflidsson was dealing with his own issues and was out of line, and then we see this as the issue. Again, that gap is just not there. Yeah. I mean, the door is open maybe for like half a second, but that's one that's always going to close. The car is always going to come across there, and you're not alongside in the braking zone. I'm not sure what Belica was really thinking with regards to that and how that was going to work out.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. The guys that we had in the front, usually they were quite strategic and calm and fair fighting, but Belica is quite new to the top 5 for us, I think. So he's a bit more of a fighting spirit, I think.
Yeah, it is. You can be that, but within reason, I would have thought.
Absolutely.
But
of course.
But yeah, it's obviously the stewards will of course be looking at things, and I wouldn't be surprised if penalties were dished out, not only for one of those moves, but for both of them, if I'm being completely honest here. But so having a look further down the field, though, because there's still battles going on down here. Arthur Gustams and Nicholas Nolder are two that are relatively close together here in this one. And in fact, Gustams has made his way through relatively recently. However, he's going to have to defend here on the way down in towards turn number 1. He's not going to be able to bring himself alongside. He is going to have a little look, but obviously can't really commit down into there. That's really to put the other driver off and trying to mess up their line through the first 2 corners. So then you can get the drive off of turn 2 here and then make something happen in towards 3. But it looks like Zolder has just lost too much time, and perhaps a slowdown penalty. Yes, he's serving a slowdown penalty right now. Will Sarah Dove be able to work her way around the outside, though, in towards turn number 3? She's trapped offline and into the dirty debris, which means that you lose a little bit of grip in the car, and she pushes wide. But thankfully, there's a lot of runoff there.
Power. I love that Sarah's doing so well. She's super close to top 10. Let's hope she can make it into the top 10. I think that would be the first female in a top 10 this season. That would be great to see.
Yeah.
Let's cross our fingers for Sarah.
Yeah, I think it would be. So fantastic stuff indeed. And you know, it's a great situation to be in, especially Nolder, who's a little bit off the pace here at the moment. I mean, I'm not sure if there's some damage. Actually, there is some damage to the rear end of his car, which might be affecting him here. So he's struggling to keep up the pace he once had. Of course, he qualified in 8th place, but we know that's he is a very potent driver indeed. In terms of race, you see Nolder going very wide, very, very wide indeed. Yeah, he's really, really struggling with that car now, and Sarah Dove able to get herself alongside here. Hasn't been able to complete the move just yet. It seems like that Nolder is still competitive down the straight here, onto the brakes in towards turn number 1. These two are going to be fighting it out here through turn 2. Dove on the inside, able to gain some ground, gain some track position. And she does slide ahead as, well, we'll have a little bit of a look somewhere else. But, yeah, great for Dove to try and get that position. She's going to have to try and defend, though, at least on the, at least with the gaps being as close as they are on the left-hand side. There we go. Nolder going to send it down the inside at turn 3 and 4 and gain the position back. But I think this is going to be one that's going to be swapping around quite often here. I get the feeling, Patricia.
Yeah, I get that feeling too, and I think Nolder is going to have a bit more trouble with his car, because if you have already a damaged car and then the tire wear comes in, I think you'll struggle more than just Sarah with the tire wear. So yeah, I hope that will come to her advantage, but definitely they'll be switching positions a couple times again.
Yeah, I think so too, as the advantages then swing one way and then the other, as we see Nolder. It doesn't look like he's too comfortable in how that car is handling at the moment. He does have some damage to the rear left of that pink Toyota GR86. And again, it pushes very wide through this long right-hander. That's the second time in the road. In fact, he's going to dive it down on towards the pit lane. So Sarah Dove will end up gaining that position. I think it was right-handers that he was having trouble with, and that long one right at the end of the lap was just completely butchering any sort of lap time he was able to try and do.
Oh yeah, that makes sense now. I was already worried he was flying off. But yeah, I was about to say, as long as I don't fight too much and let Bellica number 2 to come in too close, that would have been fine. But now he went into the pits. Obviously, he was struggling too much, and he didn't see much sense losing any further positions with his speed that he had right now.
So here's Daniel Muff trying to work his way back through the field. Has done so quite effectively, in fact, after being moved out of the way for P2, and in fact he's on the back now of Luis Belaca, so it's ding ding round 2, I suppose, between these two drivers, which will be interesting to see for sure. We've only got 11.5 minutes left in this event here, so well into our second half of the event here, as we right on board with one of our drivers further back through the field. That is rather further back through this train. That's John Ellen in the number 4, who has that battle for P3 directly in his sights.
I love cockpit views in simulators. That's the best thing, that you can see the drivers actually like driving. Very, very nice. See how calm they are.
I was just looking. Is that a Porsche wheel? Oh, slowdown penalty. Slowdown penalty for Luis Bielica. So we won't get to see the rematch of the fight and the contact that we saw a little bit earlier on. So Bielica is just going to fall towards the back of this train and ends up in 6th place. So I guess that's good to see, especially if you're Daniel Muth, because you know you might have a little bit of a problem between Patrick Thompson. Patrick Thompson, slowdown penalty as well. Oh,
I think they got together at some point. Did they get together?
Well, no, actually, Thompson had his own incident, actually. Yes, it was a slowdown penalty, but he completely overcommitted on the brakes in towards 1, took the shortcut across the runoff, and then had to serve a slowdown penalty because he took the shortcut. So has lost a whole bunch of time as a result of that. So now Daniel Muth back up into 2nd place without having to pass anyone, really.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. I think the guys really struggle with the tires and the pushing first corner, obviously, because it's so fast and you have to take the maximum out of it. Just if you lift a second or half a second sooner or more, that gives you such a time disadvantage, obviously, because it's such a fast corner. You lose so much speed there. So yeah, that's what happens quickly, even for our top drivers in the front.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's tightened everything up for this P2 now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers all within a shot at P2 here, and all wanting to get themselves on the podium. So that could set us up for a pretty interesting finish between all of these different drivers. Of course, Thompson will try and work his way back through this field. Of course, his tires will be slightly overheated due to the slide and the lockup in towards turn number 1 that last time by. But I mean, his work, is pretty easy at the moment because Bielica didn't have a slowdown penalty actually that last time through on the back straight, but just simply let Thompson go, interestingly enough.
Yeah, I think in the interviews maybe or later after the race we can ask the guys what's going on here. I think they have their own intercom talking to each other and making things out, I guess.
Yeah, I think Luis is just thinking, well, I've probably in the steward's naughty list for 2 incidents this race. Let's probably not make it a 3rd. So he's playing it quite cautiously at the moment. I think that might be what he's thinking.
That's the smarter way to go, yeah, actually.
Yeah, so yeah, it's great seeing these guys absolutely nose to tail, though. Thompson, I'm very interested to see how he's able to get through on the next couple of cars here, if he is even able to, because a lot of these drivers are very, very competent, very, very good on the defense here. So it's going to be very, very tricky, and we'll see how it works out. But he follows so closely in through that final corner that he's going to get a decent draft on the way down in towards turn number 1 here. It helps that it's basically a double or even triple draft here at this point, but again, not going to be close enough in towards turn number 1, but you just wanted to maximize this run into the 2nd corner to then get yourself the drive, get on the throttles early as you dare to try and carry the speed down this back straight and hope for an opportunity into 3.
Yeah, I have the feeling the guys are actually quite struggling with putting in a perfect lap and staying at the back of the other guys than actually making a move, because obviously most of these drivers don't know the track too well. They're not like automated into having a clean drive, so I think they're fighting with the car as well a lot right now. And
obviously we have, the track conditions being their way they are, slightly warm, but this is it feels like a very high tire degradation circuit, so you do need to still baby them around. But imagine if they're struggling through the fast corners in dry conditions. Imagine, for when iRacing gets rain, very, very soon, how the racing would have been then, because it would have been absolutely treacherous, right?
Absolutely, especially on this track with the long corners, that would have been crazy.
Yeah, so we have a lot to look forward to here in iRacing over the next couple of weeks with the introduction of Tempest, which is the weather system here in iRacing, which will bring all sorts of different conditions to the racing. I'm super excited about that. Endurance racing is going to change like fundamentally here on the service as well. So that is going to be super, super cool because of the weather, of course. But Wansi down the inside of John Ellen here and actually able to pick up the position. So a great little move there for Wansi to be able to get himself through on that one and able to try and pull away now out of turn number 2 down this back straight. Patrick Thompson also closing in here on Ellen, but gonna nose his way down the inside. Big show of nose and big commitment, but not able to draw himself alongside. Alternate lines, differing lines being taken in towards turn 2 as a result. Thompson still carrying the momentum, but really just can't find a way through at the moment. Now he's going to follow once again in through this long left-hander. We've got Luis Bielicus, who's just on the back of this one, just sort of passively observing at the moment, but we know that if there's going to be an opportunity, his car's going to be there. That's pretty much a guarantee here. So these drivers, excuse me, further down the line have to be a little bit careful, knowing that that's always going to be a situation with lunges and such coming in from behind. But Thompson looking pretty racy at this stage and really hounding the back and pressuring the back of Ellen's car. But again, getting not a lot done at the moment, but he's there, and that's the important thing, and may have an opportunity into one this time around because well, he's going to be within a car length, I would have thought, and going to be showing the nose, actually committing on the brakes in towards turn number 1. Thompson's going for it, a little bit unsettled there from Ellen, who tries to hold the inside, coming through turn 2 here, and it's going to back them all up in towards Bielicus here. So keep an eye on that car in the background to see if he gets himself involved. Still side by side between Thompson and Ellen on the run down the hill in towards turn number 3 now. Ellen continuing to hold that inside car, slipping and sliding up underneath him at the moment. It's so tricky in these conditions to keep the car pointed in the right direction, but Ellen's able to hold on to it.
Yeah, I think it's not a great move actually to use the straight and the first corner to break into the front driver, because you have the next 3 corners going to the right and you have the outside position. So as we just saw, I think you'd rather save yourself for a later point on track and break into a corner where you can immediately set yourself back on the ideal line rather than, you know, staying on the outside for the next 3 corners. Obviously that's quite hard to pull off.
Difficult indeed, as we have the rear view cam on board with John Ellen here as he tries to defend that 4th place that he's quite admirably gained over the course of this event. Actually, he started in P9, has been able to climb his way up into 4th place, mostly by keeping himself largely out of trouble. But this is the probably the hardest point in the race for him now, when he has drivers that in clear air would, I would argue, be faster than him, but he has to try and keep them behind now for another 3 minutes and a little bit extra.
Yeah, so we're coming to the end of the race again. To no surprise, they've kept it quite clean to the end of the race to fully send it in the very last lap, as they always do. So yeah, 1 more minute and then we'll see them all making their move.
Yeah, I think so too. Thompson drawing very close through the exit of turn 3, but he actually has to back out of it. Otherwise, he would have ran straight into the back bumper of the number 4 ahead. And again, chooses to fight another day through the little S's section, continuing to remain very, very close indeed. But there's just no way through at the moment. And it must be a very frustrating situation for that number 29 car to be in. It's you feel like you're faster, you feel like you're even half a second a lap faster, but you still just can't find a way through because that car ahead is defending oh so well and putting their car in all of the right places. It must be frustrating in the real world as well, Patricia, when you know you're faster than that driver ahead, but they're just defending way too well.
Hey, but that's racing, you know, especially in a cup, if it's quite hard to pull an advantage on a specific point of the track. You know, some cars are then quicker with the BOP on the straight, some of the corners, and you can kind of, you know, find the sweet spot of where you can cover and where you can attack. But with these cars, so much harder to overtake, and obviously if the guy in front is good at covering, it makes it even worse for you.
Yeah, we can see with the onboard with Ellen, doesn't look like he's stressed at all. I mean, he's just flicking his eyes across to see, you know, maybe some form of timing and things like that to be able to gauge what's going on. But really no worry on his face whatsoever. I think he has this handled, but let's see what Thompson has to say about it. He's going to angle towards the inside, down in towards turn number 3. Ellen will give him the space, and again, Carl looking a little bit unstable. Thompson holding that inside all the way around. Is Ellen going to be able to come back at him, though, in towards the next sequence of corners? I don't think he will. Oh, that's a great pass there for Patrick Thompson, exactly when he needed it. But also, Ellen has to be concerned still. He can't let his guard down now, because Lewis Bielica is on the back of him as well. So more defending for John Ellen to do in the last portion of this race.
Yeah, that was a really nice move. Let's see if Lewis is still on fire and motivated enough to make a move here on Ellen as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to see. But also, we do have to consider the amount of incidents that Lewis Bielica would have picked up. He would have picked up at least 2 4Xs, okay, 2 bits of contact, and our limit is 17. So he would be up to 8 just from those contacts alone. And if he's like run wide and got, you know, instant point after instant point, then I think that might be why he's being super cautious, Patricia, because he might be close to that disqualification instant limit, and he doesn't want to get one more.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you're absolutely right. We saw it in the last race when they got disqualified on the last lap. That's you really fight your way to the front and then just get kicked out on the last lap. But obviously that's how it goes. Same rules apply to everyone. And if you've got your 17 incidents, then fair enough, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But the driver that doesn't have to worry about instant points at the moment is Alexander Tiber. He's led from the start, and he's been managing the gap quite well. He hasn't exactly run away at the front of the field, not by any means, but he's sort of consistently managed that gap, looked after the tyres, and really had no dramas at all at the very front of the field. So well done to him at the moment, but of course we can't call him the winner just yet. He has to get himself towards the checkered flag, but it shouldn't be an issue for our championship leader at the moment. Meanwhile, further behind, things look still pretty tight in terms of the final podium position, but Patrick Thompson, I think he's just run out of time here to be able to try to challenge Wansi Lin for that final step on the podium here in race number 1. But through the final corner comes Alexander Tiber, as he'll head his way towards that start-finish line and pick up the race win here in race 1 at Rudskogen for the NGK and NTK ESPORTS CUP. Another one in the bag for the German, and he's going to celebrate on the way down in towards turn number 1. Daniel Muth comes in 2nd place, and Wansi Lin in 3rd. That is going to be your podium here for race number 1. The rest of your runners, of course, are heading their way across the line now, and then we have to set our sights forward to that full reverse grid event. That one is going to be incredibly interesting, especially with the amount of overtaking that we've seen here today as well. It's been fantastic to see the drivers be able to manufacture opportunities. Here's the unofficial race results, though, from Rudskogen race number 1. Of course, stewards will be having a look at incidents after the event and applying any penalties as appropriate. But it is Alexander Tiber that takes the race win by roughly 1.3 seconds over Daniel Muth, who's had a fantastic showing. Yes, he got himself involved in an incident. That was not his fault. However, he was still able to climb back up into that 2nd place. Then you get Wansi Lin in with a solid race in P3, with Patrick Thompson with a good recovery drive up into P4. John Ellen, still a fantastic event for John Ellen. So far, he finishes inside the top 5. Lewis Bielica involved in a couple of incidents here in race number 1. He'll look to try and clean that up for race number 2, the reverse grid event. Michael Hefflinson finishes from 7th place with Arta Customs in P8. Nazazati and Sarah Dove will round out the top 10.
Yay.
Then you have Tim Bielica in P11 with Vince Peters in P12. Noah Hendricks, Sam Chapman, Franco Sanchez Buckley. Then you have Artem Markov in P16. Then you get Micah Ploeg, Sophie Arenwen, Dario Dills, Tanguy Tako there in P20. Then you have your last 4 drivers. These are largely retirements. So Simon Suzuko Gary Lynn, Nicholas Nolder, and Harry Fox. And I can say that Nicholas Nolder did disconnect from the server after that race, so I wouldn't expect him back here for race number 2. But we've already got the starting grid for the second race because it's a full reverse grid. So it's Harry Fox that actually starts on pole position for this one with Nicholas Nolder in P2. Gary Lynn and Simon Suzuka will be our second row of the grid. Tango Takok and Dario Dills will round out the third row down towards P6 here. It's going to be a very important chance for those guys that have benefited from the reverse grid to be able to get a bunch of points from this race if they're able to defend well. Sophie Aronwen in P7 with Micah Ploeg in P8. Matt Bakarov in P9 with Buckley in P10. Chapman and Hendricks round out the top 12 on the starting grid. Then you have a look towards the drivers that were roughly more towards the front in our race number 1. They'll be starting towards the back for this one. So Vince Peters, Tim Bielica, Sarah Dove, Nazadati, Arthur Customs, Michael Hoflidson, all those drivers getting the worst end of the reverse grid here today, and the worst of the worst in terms of the reverse grid are these drivers. So Luce Bielica, John Ellen, Patrick Thompson, Wanshi Lin, Daniel Muff, and Alexander Tiber will be starting at the very back of the grid. So we have the pace lap for race number 2 underway already here, Patricia. Race 2 so far this season have been characterized by a lot of incidents on the first lap. Do you think that's going to be something that's happening here today as well?
Are you really asking? Are you really asking? I do think that is quite obvious, but let's see. These guys know how to surprise us as well, so maybe they'll behave.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those in the chat, both on YouTube and on Twitch, on the iRacing platforms and everything else, thank you very much for watching. We've got one more race here just imminently to get going on with. No matter if you're an old veteran member that has been racing in sim racing for decades, or if you're very new to this and you've only, you've just tuned in because you've seen this go on and say, what's this about? Why are they racing what people call fake cars on a fake circuit? Believe me, you'd be surprised. It's just as exciting as the real thing. I've been doing this for years. Trust me, I know. So yeah, these guys getting themselves all formed up for this rolling start here. Of course, the pressure is really going to be getting to those guys at the very front: Harry Fox, Nicholas Nolder, Gary Lynn, because they're the ones that benefited from the reverse grid. Those guys are going to have a big task to try and hold on to positions.
Yeah, the pressure is super, super high, especially if you know they're going to come flying from the back. You're trying to beware, but then again, you're trying to push as well and, taking advantage of the reverse grid. So yeah, it is quite a high intensity situation for them.
Absolutely. So we're running our way around the final corner now. At the very end of our formation lap, pace car pulls down on towards the safety of pit lane, field under the control of Harry Fox. On the way down in towards turn number 1. Long hold here before we go, and we're green flag here for race number 2 in the NGK and NTK Esports Cup here at Rudskogen. Front 2 away well, front 4 actually away well. We've got 3 wide behind though, with Franco Buckley right in the middle of things. 4 wide coming through turn 1 and 2, and that's a big mess in behind. That was never going to work out, was it? 4 wide into that section. You can barely get 2.
The traffic jam was insane. It was obvious that something's going to happen with these cars in one spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see if we can collect who's out now or who got involved into the crash.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'd probably be easier to say who wasn't involved. Let's just say that. It will be a shorter list, that's for sure. But we still, maintain these battles at the front. It's Gary Lynn and, was it Simon Suzuka? So Suzuka actually gained a place on the start there, ahead of Gary Lynn. So Suzuka up in towards second place now. Harry Fox was able to get away well and really had no dramas there on the start. But the same could not be said for the drivers in behind as well. I can't believe they tried to make 4 wide in towards turn number 1 work. That never works at most circuits, and definitely not this one.
Especially 4 wide in 3 rows. So
yeah,
like 12 cars in one spot. Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out who we lost there.
So it looks like in terms of retirements, we lost Noah Hendricks. We did well. Nicholas Nolder did not start. I don't think we really lost anyone. I think it was, it was just drivers getting out of position, because it really, overall, it wasn't it was a massive incident in terms of cars involved, but it wasn't a massive incident in terms of the level of contact that we saw. It was just other people spinning each other out, and that was basically it. I don't think many of these cars are actually too damaged. Ooh, incidents, and actually Louis Bielek is involved in it again. Tango to Cook, and Alexander Tiber looks like he's involved in this one as well. What has happened here on the way out of turn number 1 and 2?
Yeah, Tiber has not gone far to the front. Didn't make use of the start too well, actually, did he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I gotta say, having a look at this replay myself, Bielek is gonna have another conversation with the stewards here. It'll become obvious when we get onto the replay here, but it was Alexander Tiber did come up on that incident and was an innocent party in it. It's just an unfortunate timing for him, but the situation was we had the 99 slow through the first 2 corners, and Bielek just kind of ran up on him directly. There we go. There's Tiber. We didn't get to see the initial incident, but that was Tiber with cars coming back across the circuit. That's not how you rejoin, and ask anyone in the iRacing esports sphere about my opinions on rejoins. You get the same answer. I think that some of them can be done much better. But yeah, I would like to see the initial incident there, because obviously I want the viewers to see exactly what I've seen with regards to coming to my conclusions here about these incidents. So this is Louis Bielek straight into the back, into the quarter panel.
Yeah.
That one's a slam dunk penalty, and not holding the brakes across the circuit as well. I see 4 penalties for Louis Bielek in this race. Oh,
yeah,
in these 2
nice.
races, sorry.
The initial contact was not nice. I think afterwards he did get into a spin, and he could have broken whatever and still would have spun like that. So that's just bad luck for Tiber. However, obviously, as you said, the first contact was already a foul move. So yeah, definitely some warnings for that one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I do like to call those out when I see it. I think we have a duty as commentators sometimes to call those things out as, there's a bit of an incident, a bit of a problem, bit of a tussle between Vince Peters and Sam Chapman, who falls back through the order, actually wraps himself across the nose of one of the cars behind. This has potential to be an even bigger incident with cars involved. Oh, it's gone to everyone's heads here in race number 2, hasn't it? We had a very calm, we had a very relaxed race number 1, but it seems like the second race of things is all gone wrong. Oh boy, as
that's what it's for, but still, yeah, that was quite unlucky.
Yeah, we'll have to have a look back and see exactly what happened there, because that one was a bit of a mess. I think it was again, optimistic gap diving is probably the best way I could describe it. Sam Chapman went a little bit wide through the middle sector there, and then Vince Peters sort of collected him. Then Chapman fell back through the order, and then there was just a bit of confusion and cars not being clear when they thought they were clear, and Daniel Muth was the one wrapped around. Yeah.
I think they got into a swing of like one pushing the other, the car coming back, pushing the other car, and then just escalated, because I think the first initial contact with the side bump into the corner was like you could consider tough racing, hard fighting, but then afterwards obviously they just couldn't catch the car anymore, and I think it was hard for them to see in the mirrors where the other car was, because they were quite side by side most of the time, and then they just collided again and again until one of them spun.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and but it's something that we do have to deal with. But in terms of how it changes the dynamics of this race, well, that's a very good question actually. Harry Fox and Simon Suzuko have been completely fine at the very front of the field. Gary Lynn also there as well, still in that 3rd place, still relatively comfortable situation. It's just everyone behind has been involved in some form of problem or some form of incident over the course of this race already. So the current situation is that Vince Peters is a P5. We've got Patrick Thompson P6, Sarah Dove up to P7 actually. So Sarah Dove doing very well. She's actually gained a whole bunch of places since where she started. So she started 15th place up to 7th place now, but we'll have to try and defend from John Ellen here in a moment's time, as those gaps are looking really close. And in fact, the positions have been swapped already as John Ellen works his way through. Now Sarah Hadov has to try and defend from Wan Qilin, who was one of our top drivers in the previous race as well. So we'll see how she does. But with a top 10 finish in race number 1, a top 10 finish in race number 2 wouldn't be too bad either.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. That's what I wanted to say. We have quite little drivers from the previous race from the front already making their way back to the front, right? Besides Vince Peters, I think most of the drivers didn't make such a great comeback. So yeah, also then good to see Sarah Duff making a great comeback and two like perfect drives actually so far.
Yeah, it's been pretty comfortable, but this is the slightly trickier situation now when you have so many drivers that would be faster than you in qualifying trim. Yeah, here we go. Wan Qilin trying to dive it down the inside, and Dove will actually just let them go here. There's really no point sometimes in taking some of these fights, because I think fighting with them, you make that calculation, right? It's like, am I going to lose more time fighting with you than I would just letting you go? You know, that's the calculation, right?
Absolutely right, and in this case I think she made the right move because she has a bit of a gap behind her than after Haflidason, and if she loses that gap already, then the other guy's going to be up at her back as well, you know, immediately. So she'd rather use that gap of losing that one position and losing 2 laps later. So yeah, you were absolutely right.
And you never know what might happen later on in this race. I mean, we've had a very chaotic start to it. There's no reason why we can't have a very chaotic end to it. And if you keep your nose clean, you know, keep on the tarmac, and you'll be able to gain positions that way. So that could be the situation. But yeah, it's the race has, thankfully, touch wood, has calmed down a little bit. Although I know when I say that, you know, you have the whole curse of the commentator thing, right?
Exactly.
As soon as I say that, someone will have a spin, and you know, it'll be in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I was hoping it was going to happen then. That would have been amazing.
Crazy.
Wouldn't that have been amazing?
Yeah. Absolutely crazy. I could have seen it coming though. Like I was waiting for it. I was already like invested, looking at the screen. I give him 2 more laps. We have a couple fights and tight positions right now, so I do think we'll see some moves in mid of the race as well.
Yeah, we are, because I mean, we're seeing the top few try to close their way in, at least for P3. That's between Suzuko and Gary Lin. That's the battle that you see on your screen right now, actually. So Lin actually seemingly does have a decent amount of pace here. Across the line they come. So a 1:33.878 for Lin and a 1:33.983 for Suzuko. So that is a 1/10 of a second gained by Lin on that last lap. So looking very racy at this stage, but you know, it's very tough with even the, you know, a 1/10 of a second, 2/10, 3/10 of a second delta here to try and get yourself through on one of those drivers. But ooh, looks like in the background that Vince Peters has got himself a slow down penalty and ends up losing the position to Patrick Thompson.
Now they've pulled a couple gaps here, as I see. However, still, I do think they'll come back together because they're also starting to struggle with the tires once again.
Yeah, that's a great point, because that was a theme that we saw throughout race number 1 with cars sliding around, you know, taking a lot of performance out of those tires. And you know, that's the interesting thing in iRacing. You know, you're slightly more sensitive to the tire temperature than you are the wear, really, because you know, if you overheat those tires, it's like a vicious cycle, right? So if you slide, you overheat the tires, you're going to slide even more, which is going to overheat the tires even more, and it just gets out of control very, very quickly. So it's always a tough situation, and when the track conditions are not perfect either, it is tough to try and get them back down into a normal operating window.
Great explanation. Also, what you said, not only that you get into slide because your tires are bad, but also when your tires get bad and then you're in a tricky situation because the guys from the back are coming, you're covering, you're defending, you're getting into fights, all that, like even more uses your tires. So Harry Fox, the leader of the race, with 1.5 seconds gap is quite surprising, but it also kind of makes sense once again looking at the tire management. He has been at the front from the start, so he can just drive in a clean way and doesn't have to use the tires for anything else. And obviously, as we said, it's a vicious circle, so once you start this tire use, you get even slower, so the guys in the back are struggling much more than he is right now, probably. So he's in a comfortable position for sure right now.
Yeah, Thompson through on Gary Lynn. That's the change of position for P4 out there, as it looked like that Thompson was just able to gain a slight advantage on the way down towards turn number 3 and was able to, well, crack the gap open on the inside and complete the pass. We're still looking further back than that. Alexander Tiber, who's on his recovery drive at the moment. So not only did Alexander Tiber have to start at the very back of the grid here for this race too, he was also involved in that instance with Bielika not holding the brakes and coming back across the circuit and then clipping him. So I'm actually surprised that Tiber is able to, you know, his car is not very damaged as a result of that. And actually, I don't see any damage whatsoever on that Toyota. It's actually, you know, as it rolled off the factory floor. So that's an interesting thing.
Yeah, maybe it got damaged, but not in the essential parts of the car, you know, because he got crashed into the side. So as long as his, like, how do you call them, axles? Whatever, are fine, and his steering is fine. I think it doesn't make too much difference. However, still, yeah, he's been super, super quick and consistent, obviously, since he got thrown back to the back twice already.
Gary Lynn and
back to the front.
Yeah, Gary Lynn and Vince Peters fighting it out now. So Peters to the outside of turn 3 and has to be careful with not going too wide, otherwise you get yourself a slowdown penalty. But going to get himself now a gap, an overlap on the inside there. It does turn into the outside for the next corner though, which is always a bit sketchy. Through this SS section, it's tough to go side by side through here and still not lose a ton of time. Door open on the inside, and Vince Peters is going to take that one every single day of the week. Gets the performance off the corner as well. Half a car length ahead, becomes absolutely level as there's a door barge between the two of them. Lynn down the inside now through this right-hander. He's going to gain the advantage and he's going to keep the position for now. But I get the feeling that door barge was a bit unnecessary. And in fact, over the driver text chat, Gary Lynn says, sorry, I don't think he intended to do that.
Well, it's nice of him to apologize.
I guess so, but these guys, look, you know, really, really trying to get the max performance out of the car here. As you can see, Peters nose towards the inside, coming off the final corner. He's going to lose a bit of momentum, though, due to that line, and you can see Lynn is able to squeeze himself back ahead here, but he's still going to be under threat here for turn number 1. If Vince Peters is very brave on the brakes down into here, yes, he is, sends it down and in. Vince Peters is through, but can he complete the move, though? Because he's messed up his line in towards turn number 2. It looks like he's okay, and Gary Lynn won't be able to come back at him.
Oh, that was great. For sure he's going to lose a couple kph at the end of the straight, but that was a perfect move. So, touche, I take it back what I said before with not sending it into T1. He did that.
Yeah, oh, and Lynn has messed up turn 3 as well. It means that Ellen might have an opportunity in making his way through. Not quite through there, but it's going to be a compromised line once again through the yeses section for Gary Lynn. This is where he came under threat on that last lap into here, but he keeps the tighter line this time around and not inviting that move down the inside, although Ellen is going to try and get him off the corner here. It looks like he can lean on his tires a little bit more. The acceleration's a bit better in that number 4 car, down towards the inside now. And Lynn, it looks like he's just lost all confidence in the car now, and he's going to get freight trained down the inside. Alexander Tiber out of nowhere, driver from the back of the grid, you know, reverse grid, obviously race 1 winner, but reverse grid last place in terms of this one. He's got himself all the way up now in towards 7th place.
Let's see how far he can come. We've already entered, I think, the last 3 minutes of the race again, so we're going for the last full stunt laps for the drivers. I think Tiba's gonna definitely take that personal and go for it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Tiba, he's he's going to be 7.5 seconds off of the race lead as you see it dive in from behind. There's Wanshi Lin, who also is one of those drivers that was towards the very back of the field, working their way back through now. It's Lin has had a A pretty terrible last couple of laps, all things considered. None of it has really been his fault, to be fair. He's just been completely freight trained, been harassed, been dove in on constantly, and is just having to deal with these situations as they arrive. But Wan Qilin down the inside and gains the position there up into P8, puts Gary Lin back down into P9. But this race is definitely still not done. We've got battle packs, we've got Tiber on the back of Ellen at the moment, we've got Peters on the back of Suzuko as well, further up the road. That's the battle for P4. So lots of places to look at for entertainment here in the final 10 minutes of this race.
Oh yeah, I think I kind of lost track of time for a bit. I thought it was already end of the race. My bad. Oh, but even more, then I think Tiba has still a lot of potential. I think 7 seconds is realistic for him within 10 minutes, actually.
I mean, what's the sort of lap times that Tiba's been doing? I mean, not in traffic. He's been doing, you know, into the 132s, into the high 132s, sometimes a 132.7. Harry Fox has been doing, let's see, 133, mid 133s. So it could be, you know, 7-8 tenths of a second a lap that Tiber is gaining, as long as he can get through on these cars, as we see battling going on. Suzuko and Peters, oh, back into Ellen. Ellen gets a tap from in front and behind. At least that was on my own picture, but then you see battles going on elsewhere as well. So you see the battle for the race leads there. So Buckley trying to get it. So everything is happening all over the place at the moment. We don't know what to look at, but battle for the race lead. Harry Fox has lost it to Franco Sanchez Buckley, and I think that was because Harry Fox got himself a slowdown penalty, correct?
I am not sure.
Yeah, it must have been because he had an advantage of like 1.7 seconds, something like that, at a decent advantage. But all of a sudden now, that lead is held by Franco Sanchez Buckley and not Harry Fox. Interesting stuff. So that changes the dynamic once again. And in fact, Tiba will be very thankful about that as well, because it means it's less of a gap that he has to now catch up to try and get roughly towards the very front of this one. But the problem for Tiba at the moment is that he has a battle directly ahead of him that he has to be concerned about.
Yeah, that's true, absolutely. I kind of missed what happened there with the lead switch.
Yeah, I think we all did. But there we go.
How did he come so close?
There we go, down the inside. I don't think it was a slowdown penalty. I think it was just a fair pass. So Harry Fox, you know, lost all of that time somehow, and Franco Sanchez Buckley has really just made a quite an authoritative move down the inside there at turn 3. Meanwhile, Tiba looking to the outside at turn 1 here. He's got to be careful not to get pinched off through turn 2. All stacked up together here in this particular battle for P4. Suzuko now has to try and defend from Peters. So Peters goes from defense to offense here on the way down the hill into turn number 3. They're getting so close. Careful not to make contact. Suzuka trapped on the outside line. Here comes Tiba, diving himself down the inside, trying to capitalize on the battle that was going on ahead of him. Suzuka, if he can hold the inside here, he might just have a chance of holding on. Yes, he does, but can't quite carry the momentum through. So Tiba capitalizing on the battle going on ahead to try and gain the position as well.
Great drive, great drive. You can see how they're throwing the cars around, and just managing that is already tough enough. Yeah, clean overtake. That was nice.
Yeah, nicely done indeed. And oh, there's a dive in from behind. Ellen really just sending it on Suzuko there. He was that was going to be I'm trying to gain this position or we'll both crash sort of move, wasn't it? It was there we go. Suzuko back down the inside, able to gain that position back though.
That was a perfect overtake. Ari didn't seem too happy about the counter.
Oh, Tiba is through on Peters. I think Peters made a slight mistake towards the final corner and just allowed Tiba to get back through.
I think that's his driving style, by the way. I think he drives like that. I think he's making it a sharp apex on that corner instead of like pulling the speed through the corner. I think he's making it rather sharp and like braking into it, turning, and then going full throttle sooner. That's a different driving style, but it works as well. I've done both as well, depending on the car. I'm not sure. Maybe he thinks it's better with this.
Yeah, it could be. Could well be. But this thing isn't over yet. We've still got 4 minutes left in this one and still battles to be concerned about. Ellen having to try and both defend and attack at the same time here, it feels like, as Wan Qilin had a little bit of a look on the way down in towards turn 3 there, but was unsuccessful in getting that pass done, or at least even getting alongside as we ride on board here with John Ellen through that S's section, trying to lock onto the back of Simon Suzuko in that red car ahead. Suzuko back end out, inside open for John Ellen to work his way through and get the pass. Further behind, Suzuko back into the battle with Wan Chi Lin this time around. Wan Chi Lin's going to be trapped on the outside here, but carries a decent amount of speed, all things considered, and actually makes it competitive coming off the corner here. The outside is not always the strongest place to be there, but Wan Chi Lin's able to make it work and keep himself ahead there. And now in towards this final sector, he's going to be pretty secure in that position as long as he doesn't wash up too much out of turn 2. Of course, not turn 2, sorry, the final corner. There's a couple of approaches you can take to that one. Wan Chi Lin seems to like doing the double apex coming off the corner instead of hugging the inside all the way around.
I think with Suzuka, it's what we talked about before. We see this vicious circle like spinning for him with the tires because he has so many overtakes, he has to cover, and then people are overtaking him, he has to go offline, and then the tires get even worse, and he's in a stressful situation. So he's been losing a couple positions now, but I hope he can settle down now and find his rhythm again, because else he'll fall back even further, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. But the thing is, I don't think he can fall back any further at this point, because it's a big gap behind him now to Michael Hoflidersen, about 2 seconds. So should be able to recover things from this point. So the unresolved battles that we have here, Alexander Tiber, Vince Peters. We also have the race lead to be concerned about here as well, because that is still within a second. In fact, it's still within half a second between those two drivers there. Harry Fox has been leading this race for the vast majority of it, but the last couple of laps ago lost the position there to Franco Sanchez Buckley. So can Sanchez Buckley hold on to this one inside the final 2 minutes that we have as we round our way through the final corner here? We'll have to see whether we'll get one more or whether or not this is going to be the final lap, as Franco Sanchez Buckley, again, outside of the final corner. The lap times are usually about 1:33s, and it crosses the line with a 1:36. We have 2 to go. Defending already on the way down in towards turn number 1. Patrick Thompson is really trying to apply the pressure. Of course he is. He's on for a race win here, potentially. And of course, we had Harry Fox again fall further off the back of this one. So Harry Fox has not had a fantastic time whatsoever. So he's really been struggling at this stage. But Thompson now is on for the race win. Buckley has to try and hold on to this now. It would be a fantastic drive for him to take this one away. But Thompson, it would be a similar story for him as well, as he had to start this race at P21.
Definitely a euphoric moment for him. I think if he takes the race win here, that would be nice.
Would be fantastic. We're riding on board with our race leader here at the moment, and looking back at the pressure being applied from behind. As you can see, the shallow line into the right taken by Buckley. He's feeling the pressure at the moment. He's able to keep himself ahead. Thompson overcommitting to the outside line there and ends up washing out to the exit of the circuit. Patrick Thompson, you can see the eagerness just in the body language of the car. Basically, he's always looking for the inside, always looking for the outside. Whatever opportunity might arise, Patrick Thompson's making sure that he is there to try and deal with it. Look at how close he's following. Coming off the final corner, we will cross the line with 2 seconds to go. One more lap for these drivers to settle their differences, and we got side by side for the race lead between Buckley and Thompson. Onto the brakes in towards turn number 1. Thompson's going to be hung out to dry here. He's going to have to back out of it to make sure he doesn't get a slowdown penalty here. But as they exit the corner now, taking as much track as they want and they need to try and hold these moves. Thompson has the draft on the way down in towards turn number 3 now. Early defensive move for Buckley, but Thompson goes even further towards the inside to try and get the pass done, but it's all covered off here as they work their way now in towards turn number 3. Harry Fox is gaining on these guys as they try to scrap, as they try to slice and dice, but through the S's section now, Patrick Thompson still hasn't been able to find a way through whatsoever. It feels like he's the fastest out of these two, but he still just can't find a way through, winding through the left-hander. not a lot of opportunities left now to try and get this pass done. Thompson, he's going to have to go for a dive somewhere, someplace, but how? Another early defensive line being taken by Buckley. It looks like Thompson will have the speed coming off the corner here, and he's trying to get himself alongside, but still no momentum at this stage. Just a couple more corners to go between these guys. Harry Fox in P3 is there, but I don't think he'll be a factor at the moment. Heading their way into the final corner now. Is there any last-ditch attempt for Thompson to try and steal this one away from Franco Sanchez Buckley? I don't think there will be. Coming out of the final corner, Franco Sanchez Buckley will take the race to win here in the NGK and NTK Esports Cup. Here at Rudskogen, we've had another one, Patricia. We've had another crazy finish in the race too. I can't believe it.
Yeah, that was intense. That must have been super, super frustrating for Thompson. He was so quick. He was just waiting for the last 2 laps, going full push, and still didn't get a single opportunity. So amazing job by Buckley. And congratulations. We have 3 newcomers, I think, on the podium for the second race. That's amazing. They all held strong till the very end. So that's great. Amazing race once again.
I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit lightheaded. I don't think I breathed throughout that. So I'm going to take a moment here. The rest of the runners...
I'm just jealous of you right now. You just had that.
I'm completely dead. But yeah, the rest of the runners heading their way across the line now. What a race. I mean, it's the box standard race 2 that we've had throughout this season, and it's great to see. So Franco Sanchez Buckley takes the race with Patrick Thompson P2, Harry Fox in P3 as well. That's the unofficial order. The official gap at the end there was just about under 2/10 of a second between Buckley and Thompson, which is crazy. Harry Fox in 3rd place. Alexander Tiber from the very back of the grid up into 4th place with Vince Peters in 5th, John Ellen 6th, Wanji Lin in P7, Simon Suzuka P8, Michael Hafliderson and Daniel Muth will round out the top 10 there. It looks like Sarah Dove missed out on the top 10, but still got P11 there, which is pretty good going. Arthur Gustams in P12 with Gary Lynn in P13, Nazadati in P14, Sam Chapman P15, Micah Ploeg there in P16, Tango Takog in P17, and then Sophie Anwen in P18. Dario Dills and Noah Hendricks will round out the top 20 cars, and then of course the rest of our retirements. Of course, there were a few of them, especially considering the opening instance that we have. Artem Markarov, Tim Bielica, and Luis Bielica. 2 of the Bielicas are retirements in this particular race.
Oh.
So we have to take a little bit of I've calmed down a little bit after that one. I think it's probably fair to say. One of these races is going to give me a heart attack at some point. I guarantee it. So it's, but yeah, it's great. It's great to see, and that's what that's the great thing about reverse grids. You get those sorts of situations at the end sometimes where you have a faster driver trying to catch the slower driver. The slower driver's holding on to dear life, trying to get that race win. It's really entertaining every single time.
Absolutely. I think for spectators, there's nothing better. Obviously, the guys in the front, they're more calmer, they're more settled, I would say, and they know how to wait and where to push and where not to. And these second races, always, they're just absolute madness. So yeah, but it's fun to see. I always have a great time. Great way to spend your Friday night, guys. So also, again, thanks for everyone watching. I think it's quite fun how we get together and just have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I if we have a situation like that in our grand final, I think I'll lose my voice. But yeah, it's because I mean, we'd have a whole lap of that at the Nordschleife potentially. But it would be absolutely crazy. But we do, of course, we have this situation at the end here. Of course, we have we'll tot up all of the scores. Once the stewards have done their thing, they'll get to process everything and see who's still inside the top 40, who is not inside the top 40. And then, of course, we'll get ourselves set for the final race of the regular season in a couple of weeks' time, and it's going to be fantastic. And then we'll have a clearer picture of who's going to be competing in that final race at the Nordschleife, and then who, unfortunately, will have to be sitting here and watching the stream probably. But yeah, it is crazy stuff. We are potentially waiting for some interviews here. I'm not sure what our lovely producer Hugo Luis is gonna do or pick or anything like that. So I'm just waiting for that information. But yeah, Patricia, it's I love not only how these races went, but how this track actually performed in terms of being a venue for us, because that was actually quite surprising, the amount of overtaking that we saw and the amount of chances that the drivers had at what is quite a technical circuit.
That is absolutely true. I was surprised by that as well, because I thought the guys are going to struggle a bit more with the track because it's so new and so rare. I also think it's quite a great opportunity for the drivers to do something, I think, new. Obviously, Nordschleife is going to be insane. I'm so much looking forward to the finale of the season. However, like a track like Rudskogen is still like something new. Like everyone's driven Nordschleife. If you have a simulator at home, that's the first thing on your to-do list. However, like something like Rudskogen, it's not something you think of yourself. So I think it's the perfect track to make a race on because it's unique. But yeah, I didn't expect the guys to handle it so well either. They did quite great, and they had a lot of fighting and a lot of overtaking. So it looked like they managed it all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will get to speak to at least one of our race winners here today. That's Alexander Tiber. So, Alex, how's it going? I mean, that first race went pretty well for you. It seemed like you had absolutely no problems whatsoever. Was that how it felt behind the wheel in that first race?
Not really, because I felt pretty good for the qualifying, but I haven't invested much time into the long run practice, so I was actually a bit struggling with the tires. But I mean, it was still everything under control. I just could have been faster with a proper practice session before that. Yeah, nevertheless, everything worked out, and I'm pretty happy with the result.
Yeah, you were definitely not the only one struggling with tires today. Is that just the characteristics of the track? We have so many high speed and medium to high speed corners, which really takes a lot out of the tires. The track being on not hot but on the warm side also does not help either. Was that expected coming into today, or did you just not expect that, especially given the fact that you said that you didn't have much long run practice?
No, you pretty much nailed it. Yeah, the track characteristic doesn't fit low downforce cars pretty well. So it's really hard to be fast and keep the tires alive. So it's very easy to overshoot one of these, especially turn 2, 3, the fast right-hander. It's super easy to overshoot there, and on the on the other opposite, it's pretty easy to oversteer in the middle of the corner, because it's really tricky to nail the to nail it between these two extremes.
Yeah, very well explained, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Just take me through that race too, because obviously, due to doing so well in race 1, you start the back for race 2. That's kind of how this series works, right? So, and you had a bit of an incident involving a car that was not holding their brakes, came back across the circuit, tagged you a little bit. How was the car feeling after that? Because I thought you would at least have some form of damage on the car, but it seemed like that you were not too far off the pace as what you usually are. So what happened there? The car just came to the inside, and I tried to avoid that, and couldn't. There was no space left, and there was nothing I could do. Luckily, I didn't got a meatball. I was pretty afraid in that moment, but luckily I survived. But I've got some damage on. Basically my whole side was scratched and deformed. And I also could feel it, especially in a few corners, that my car isn't there. But at the end it worked out. I made up a few places. Was quite hard to overtake here on this track, because of this corner characteristics. So it's not easy to find a good spot for a dive bomb, for example. But P4, I think it should be enough for the overall victory, and that's good.
Yeah, you still did a great job. So we enjoyed watching, and you still managed to overtake a couple of places. So even though it was hard, you did well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, there we go. That was Alexander Tiber, race 1 winner here today. And of course, in race number 2, wasn't as good, but still P24 to P4, nothing to be too worried about. We have Of course, we would get the opportunity to speak to our second race winner, but Franco Sanchez Buckley. But unfortunately, he has not made himself available for the interviews here. So we'll have to give that one a miss for now. But yeah, at the end of another crazy event, Patricia, we've got one more to go until we get ourselves the final event at the Nordschleife. Let's have a look at that. Of course, we go to my home country. We go to Oulton Park. We go to this little island here in the North Atlantic. It's going to be a fantastic venue for our final, basically, qualification round for all intents and purposes, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a great race. I'm looking forward to it, but more, as I already mentioned maybe too many times, I'm looking forward to the big finale. I think Nordschleife will be just absolute madness because it's such a crazy track. And obviously with these tight speeds that we have, like the competition here, I think it's just amazing. So definitely tune in for that one, guys. But obviously, once again, don't forget Oulton Park. I think everyone is going to be more than pumped to qualify for the race, so it's going to be a good ball.
Yeah, absolutely. As we do have to wrap things up here today. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching these events across all of the platforms that we're broadcasting on, no matter if it's Twitch, no matter if it's YouTube. You are all super valued, and that's all a massive appreciation from everyone here for tuning into these events. But we've only got a couple more to go. Of course, we have Oulton Park as our next qualification round before we get ourselves towards the grand finale at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. So you'll have to join us next time as we head to Cheshire here in the UK for our final qualification event for that finale. But for now, we will have to say good night.
Have a good night, guys. Bye.